The sharp depreciation of the shekel against the dollar continues. Last week, the shekel crossed the 3.325 mark for the first time in over a year. The depreciation reflects the strength of the dollar on world markets in anticipation of continued rate hikes by the U.S. Federal Reserves to cope with rising U.S. inflation. But not only that, also the continuing Russia-Ukraine war is strengthening the U.S. dollar. We really want to understand more, and also whether that's a good time to invest in the shekel. So Dr. Gali Ingber, the head of the Department of Finance in the Faculty of Business Administration at the College of Management, joins us. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
So for years, the dollar graph has been in a negative slope across the world. Explain to us, please, why is it strengthening so much now? And how is it linked to the growing inflation in the US and the war in Ukraine?
The growing inflation causes a situation where the central banks raise the interest rate, and once the interest rates are high, then people are investing in the currency in that country where the interest rate is higher. Here in Israel, in March, we had a lower inflation than expected. So everyone is now saying that the next interest hikes in Israel will be lower than what we expected at first. So compared to the Israeli shekel, for instance, if the rate in the US is going to be higher than the rate in Israel, then of course people will prefer to invest in the dollar, not in the shekel. The same happens worldwide. All the central banks are going to increase the interest rate, but once the interest rate in the US will be higher than other places, then people will turn to the dollar. The second reason is, of course, the war in Ukraine and Russia. Times of war, times of uncertainty, times of insecurity, people tend to turn to the dollar because it's sort of a safe haven. Always has been, always will be probably. And that's why it's strengthening worldwide.
Okay. Now, if we look at the graph, and let's look at the graph of how the dollar has been performing against the shekel, it is really a record high. Are we expecting it to increase even, to grow even stronger in the next year? Or does that only depend on how long the war goes and on inflation in the US, or does it also depend on local variables here in Israel?
Right, yeah. So compared to the Israeli shekel, there are a few more factors. So that's why I'm not sure it's going to go weak in the next few weeks. Might be even the dollar might even get stronger because we have two things going on here right now, which is we have security situation and political situation, which make people not want to invest in the shekel. Political wise, we all know that the Israeli Knesset is in Passover recess. It's going to come back soon. Yeah. Once it's coming back, it might vote to despair. And once, if and when that happens, the government will fall. We might go to a fifth election. So that's not working in favor of the shekel.
Of course.
And the second thing is the security situation, all the tension between the Israeli and Palestinians that is growing lately, the Ramadan month, the shooting lately in Ariel last night, in Tel Aviv, in Bnei Brak, in Hadera, all this does not contribute to the strengthening of the shekel. People tend to not invest in the shekel in times like this.